communities, you know, the born of the dance phenomenon and high level competitive Irish dancing, which both of which I love and adore, and we participate in those in some ways as well. But there can be a tendency sometimes to center dance above everything else. And music kind of becomes a secondary character in those cases. And we
long intro.
have time to stop, right? We put on whatever music is at the right tempo because we're trying to master some specific piece of dancing. So there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it is absolutely not how Irish dance evolved as an art form. So we're going to talk more about that other side of it today, and the fact that dancers, there has to be a place for dancers to learn and appreciate how Irish music supports and informs Irish dancing. So that place at the crossroads of Irish music and dance is where the tradition develops, and it's where we usually and
it shows for every.
So with that goal in mind, today's program is designed to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, to give you a window into how Irish music and dancing work with each other, and how Irish dancers learn about Irish music and think about Irish music, and also a bit of the history and tradition of Irish music itself. So hopefully you'll be seeing all of those things today over the course of this program. So to start, we are going to show you a little bit about how we teach our new beginner dancers to listen to the music and the rhythm that is the underpinning of all things Irish dance.
For a little while.
So, new beginners,
Okay, my car.
are you ready? Excellent. I saw a very curious hesitation that, so I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Okay, so in our beginner classes, I'm going to have you come up and get into your order while I keep talking. So come on up here in order. So in our beginner classes, we play tapping games, we focus on matching each other's rhythms, we count to the music, and we explore lots of different types of music outside of Irish music to really focus on musicality and showing with your body what the music sounds like or feels like. And so all of those things lay a really strong foundation for a dancer who can interpret the music physically, which in many ways is the pinnacle of what good dancing is. So the first thing we're going to show you is a drill that we do with our new beginner class, which is focused on counting the beats of Irish music and dancing in time with the music. So it will also give you as an audience today a kind of primer on what Irish music and dance, how they fit together. So I'm going to count the drill out loud like I do in class, so you get a sense of how we start teaching these ideas of timing and rhythm and integrating music from the very beginning. So we're going to have a reel. We're going to have a reel. Fantastic job, my friend. Well done. Woo, got that one out of the way. Okay. So what you just heard was a reel, and while our dancers catch their breath for a moment before I call them back up, I will hand things over to Denise Dean, our fabulous fiddle player for the day, to introduce a little bit about what a reel is and the music that you're hearing.
Talk loudly enough, I can do that. I got children. So reels are actually a great psychographic reel history, like for so reels actually not they started as songs. So they started as songs around the 1500s. So the Irish dancers were the ones who walked.
And the code.
So reels are the things you're going to hear most often when you hear an Irish song. Or tune rather, it's probably going to be real. It's really fast. It's probably the most common tune you'll hear. For any musicians out there, it's in four time. So it's like knowing what time it is for dancers. These dancers can dance to any reel. I've never heard the song before, but they can dance to any reel. It's the same. And I always think of the reels as very fluid. And yeah, so those are things really good most often. A lot of musicians have certain ways they want to record things, like I think it's kind of a good player base this word for real is watermelon. So he's like, watermelon. So the singing musicians do it also, the keywords and so that's really
So we are going to continue with the reels for another number. These dancers, our same group of beginners, are going to demonstrate some reel steps. So what you just saw was a drill that we do to practice our timing and our technique. And what you're about to see are the first steps of the day. So steps tend to be the very simple traditional ones tend to be handed down generationally, and you might see the same beginner level steps at any dance school you go to. But as things get more complex in particular, you'll start to see steps that are associated with a particular school. So a lot of the steps you're going to see today are Garrett school Irish dance steps, and if you want to do a different performance of Irish dance, you see completely different steps. So in contemporary dance in particular, steps tend to be associated with a particular school. So with our beginner dancers, when we start teaching them steps, we try to keep the steps really simple and clear so that the dancers can really focus on dancing to the music. Again, that's a foundational piece of Irish dancing. You can't Irish dance without Irish music. And so we really want our dancers to focus on their timing and their rhythms and keep the steps simple. So I'm going to call up stand up, and I'm going to call them up because they're going to dance on. Okay, you can take a step away so you don't have to take that water bottle. Okay. All right, whenever you're ready. Next up, my light jig dancer, you are going to come side stage, so if you're in the light jig, come on over. Okay, so we talked about reels, you've seen some reels, you've heard some reels. We are now going to talk about another type of dance and music called a jig. You will hear about the musical application of jigs in just a moment. But from a dance perspective, what you're about to see is called a light jig. That means that it's a dance done in soft shoes or gillies, which you will see from some of our dancers later on. And light jig steps tend to be quite traditional. Just in general, when you see light jigs, the steps tend to be a little bit more traditional than some of the reels that you'll see later on today. One of the reasons for that is that jig music tends to be quite heavy from a dancing perspective. So there's really only so much you can fit into a jig step before it becomes undanceable. So they just stay a little bit more traditional because there's room to fit a bunch of new contemporary movements in. But you'll also hear that jigs and reels are not completely on different planets, but there are some differences within the music and the rhythm of the music. So that also informs the style of dancing that you will see. So I'm going to hand it over to Denise again and our musicians to explain a little bit more about jigs, or the difference between jigs and reels, or anything you want to add, and then we'll see some like jig stuff.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of jigs that dancing players play, but for instance, the light jigging, it's probably the second most common swing you'll hear after reels, and there again, there's a different from 6/8 to like 6 beats to a measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I always think of like if I were to draw a reel on a piece of paper, it would be like horizontal and fluid, and if I was to draw it vertical, like that's the way I always thought that. My credit for kind of clean. And it feels, when you think of jig, you think of hockey and jiggy, and that's exactly the sound that I try to put in my head. So again, vertical, horizontal.
I love that. That is so on point with how I think about it as a dancer.
Try to draw it.
It would absolutely be something. Yeah. It would be like a very spiky mountain.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
And it was like,
Ooh, okay. Love this. Okay, we're gonna put that on a t-shirt. Okay. So we're gonna have our dancers come up and demonstrate a light jig. So come on up. Yes, literally come on. And so our dancers are gonna start with a basic jig step, which is dance pretty much the same all around the world. So this is like the foundational step of all like jig steps. There are slight variations to it, but basically the skeleton is the same no matter what you do. And then you're going to see each dancer dance a different step. So you'll see some of the variations. And you might be able to see, you might not be able to see. But as a dancer, I think we can probably feel that kind of up and down movement of the jig versus the kind of horizontal movement of the reel that we were just talking about. So here we go with some jig steps. I should have a practice dancer in today, so we're gonna yep. Perfect. Yep. dancer side gigs. If you're in the Slipstick, you're up now. So you've seen a reel, you just saw a light jig, now you're going to see a dance called Slipstick, which despite its name is very different from the light jig that you just saw. So I'm going to convert over to Denise to talk about Slipstick, and then we'll talk more about musically how that informs the dancing thereof.
Well, full disclosure, I don't have a whole lot to say about this because it's a really great, all these days are really rare, there's way more information than anybody really wants to hear right now. But I think as a musician, I think it was really, really helpful. I didn't understand how to play Slipstick until my daughter's dance with really good, and I wasn't able to get that until I saw how Slipstick was really speaks to the confidence how dances and music are so knitted together, because I just couldn't get it until I saw with the steps. Very, very, very different than did, which is, yeah. And Slipstick is closer to an ocean than but yeah, so I don't like to choose more Slipstick.
I will say the same for me as a dancer, like the way that I learned to identify cues, like if I heard a band playing and want to get a dance, the way that I check myself is by like dancing a step in my brain and like seeing if there's a couple of steps that like I learned when I was young that I still use to identify certain types of things. So it works the same way in both directions. And a Slipstick, as we said, is very different from any of the dances we've seen, and it's a pretty unique dance in the world, and also it's pretty unique within the Irish dance tradition. There are very few dances that are like Slipstick, except for Slipstick. And so the two dances you saw earlier, although you could hear the difference in the music and see the difference in the steps, one is a little bit more up and down, one is more horizontal. But Slipsticks are like the very far end of that spectrum, at least in terms of the way I think about them. Slipsticks go really flowy and smooth and elegant, and they travel across the floor in a very different way than wheels, which also travel across the floor, but have a lot more sharpness and pop to them. So you're also going to see some of our older and more advanced dancers here. So some of these steps are also just going to be more complex in general. But with all of the steps at all the levels we're seeing, you should see that the Slipsticks are much more smooth and flowy than the dances we've seen so far. So, Slipstick people. And all you're going to see here is just Slipstick steps. There's no choreography here, it's just Slipstick steps. But again, you'll get a sense for some of the more complex movements you can do when you start to get more experience with it. right, well done. So, we are going to have dancers, I speak for the hostage, so my hostage people here next. Yes, that's our hostage. So we are going to see our first percussive dancing of the program. Exciting moment for all of us. So Irish dance is not entirely unique, but it's one of the few forms that features both what we call soft shoe dancing and percussive dancing. So you're about to see a percussive dance that is more of a traditional or old style dance. There is a type of Irish dance called shawness dancing. Shawness means old style in Irish. I would not consider this fully a shawness dance. Usually shawness implies that there's some improvisation and it's really just about, you don't have anything planned, just pure music for playing and go for it. We are working our way to that point, but we are not there right this moment. So what you're going to see instead is a collection of some steps that I learned from Ethan and Vermont in Vermont some summers ago. So there hopefully will not be too much improvising today. But there often is some in a live performance regardless. You are, however, going to see some of the stylistic features of older, more traditional style percussive dance. So there's less focus on the really technical aspects of like turning out your feet and pointing your toes and lifting your legs really high. There's a lot more flow in the upper body, so you can move your arms, you can kind of create your own personal style. Those are hallmarks of old style, more traditional Irish dance, and you will see some of those today. So, was there anything you would like to say about hot stage? Yeah, usually they're similar to a slipstick, but the actual distinction is very murky. Yes, I agree. Great. You're about to be hot Maybe it's a rolling hills, values. Oh, I'm so sorry. Today, I'm studying in on a couple of dances. Sorry, okay. Fantastic. So, St. Patrick's Day here next, so you can make your way by stage, grab a drink, you've got time. I will talk, you can breathe. So, the next dance we're going to see is what we call a traditional set dance. And a traditional set in this context means a series of steps that are choreographed to fit a specific tune. So Denise talked earlier about how, generally speaking, Irish dancers, if they hear a reel, they can get up and dance their steps. It doesn't matter what the actual tune is, as long as it's a reel, we can dance to it. A traditional step dance is different because the steps are choreographed to the specific tune. So you wouldn't dance the steps with any other tune, you would only dance them with the specific tune. The dance you're going to see today is conveniently called St. Patrick's Day. So the tune is called St. Patrick's Day, And we also call the traditional set dance St. Patrick's Day. So these are dances that were truly handed down from generation to generation. They tend to be very old. This one is several generations old at least. And most of the traditional sets date back to the tradition of dance masters in Ireland when expert dancers would travel from community to community and spend some time in each town or village, share their dances, teach their dances, and then move on to the next community. This is how they make their living. Musicians, there were musicians who do the same thing. And so you would often end up with a particular region that had kind of specific style of a dance or specific dances in their repertoire because of the way that the tradition was handed down. So the traditional set dance are really special to us as dancers because they survived generationally this long. And a lot of Irish traditional arts didn't survive because they were repressed for many years over the history of Ireland. So this particular dance is probably at least 100 years old, if not older. And if you were to go to any Irish dance school in the world, you could learn this exact version of St. Patrick's Day, these exact steps. There are a few versions of a lot of the traditional steps because different dance masters sometimes happen to choreograph steps to the same tune. So there are a couple other versions of St. Patrick's Day floating around, but this is by far the most common one, the one we're about to see today. Denise, would you like to add anything about crowd sets or anything along the line?
No, I mean, no. And this is the traditional set and the contemporary set. And the traditional sets are, there's a smaller handful, I think.
Yes.
And they're all played, they're played very distinctly the same way. There's no like, and then from a musician's point of view, there's no improv, there's no noodling, there's no swirly stuff, or, you don't do any of that. Like, you give us very specific stuff, very specific dances. So it's kind of easy for us because we don't do that.
Yeah, same from a teaching perspective. So I'm actually gonna have Andrea, yes, there you are. I'm gonna do a brief little demo on the full volunteer Andrea here to show you how we teach traditional set dances. Like I said, with a real step, any reel will do. But when I'm teaching something like a traditional set, most Irish dance teachers do this. In fact, it's on the Irish dance teacher's exam. That you have to be able to lilt, L-I-L-T, the phrase is lilting, which is basically where you're singing the music with your mouth instead of instrument. And sometimes in dance class, instead of just literally singing nonsense syllables, I'll actually sing the steps to the tune. And that's usually what we do in a case like St. Patrick's Day, where we have steps that are always fit to the exact same spot in the tune. When I'm teaching dancers, I want them to learn the music at the same time that they're learning the steps, because you can't separate the two in a traditional set. They are the same thing. So Andrew's just going to demonstrate a brief moment of St. Patrick's Day, a little sneak peek, and show you how we kind of learn it in class, and then we'll see the whole thing with actual music. Okay. Ready? 5 and 6 and here you go. What we are defending, but otherwise, you should hear the same tune as you see the steps change. So we're going to see the whole traditional set at the same time. everything that out. So, fabulous. We are now, advanced beginner and contemporary step people. Get your softies on if you don't already have them. We're doing the long reel. Okay. So, we do a lot of fairly traditional dances so far today. The Slipsticks are probably the biggest exception to that. We've got some pretty contemporary style steps when we saw the Slipstick. But we are now going to give you a little tour through some recent history of Irish dance in a dance. So we're going back to some reels. But what you're going to see is a sequence of different bits and pieces that are going to kind of take you a little time travel moment. So we're going to start with a two-hand dance, which is more traditional. It's the kind of thing that you might have seen at a community celebration or a dance at the Crossroads or even a community daily, where, you know, two people might have made up a little choreography in their kitchen, and then we're showing it off to their community members, but the steps are going to be fairly traditional for that one. So I should clarify that a two-hand dance is a two-person dance. There are technically four hands. That is not how you, not the lingo in our dance. So we're going to be two-hand, it's a two-person dance. And then we are going to see a much more contemporary figure, choreographed by our more advanced dancers themselves, who will collaborative effort choreography. So that's going to be a little bit more contemporary, the kind of thing that came out of, you know, river dance and the explosion of like dance, Irish dance performance. Because prior to river dance, Irish dance really wasn't, it certainly wasn't performed in large numbers. It was performed more, you know, again, in your kitchen, small community celebrations. That was the first time really that anyone had put Irish dance on stage with a audience versus just like your neighbors having a little gathering. And that, for obvious reasons, really changed and accelerated the pace of change within Irish dance as a form. So you're going to see some contemporary choreography, and then we're going to finish it off with a bunch of solo steps. So you'll see some group dances, and then you're going to see some solo steps that range from slightly simpler to all the way right up to our most competitive style steps. So that is where we are. You all ready with a reel? Let's take it a little after. Okay. So let us all dancers. Two hands here in the middle. We are now going to give you an opportunity to enjoy a little ice music and dance from each other. So a little moment. We are going to give you this as a chance to play a little set of their own. So me, also if you want to introduce the rest of the musicians who are up to their family. Yes. My left is Garrett.
So there's music, the laboratory, which is where I'm playing. Non-concertina, that's sometimes people get the mixed up. Concertina is just a rock and shape form with runs on the side. This is one of the newer instruments in Irish Christian music. The old ones, I guess, in that group would be the Uilleann pipes, the harpsichord, which is the national symbol for Ireland. The fiddle is one of the older instruments, and I think the whistle would be classified as well. The flute can a little bit later. But accordions were invented in Germany in the early 18th century. By the end of that century, by the end of the 18th century, they made their way to Ireland. It was a simple accordion, it was a 10-button accordion that was really limited in the number of keys that it could play. So as time went on, first they had 3 buttons to the top of the one 10-button row. Then eventually they added another whole row. So this is what they call chromatic. There's a half step in tuning between each of these different rows, which means you can go across them and that enables you to play a bunch of several different keys. Mine is a B C, so the outside row is a B, and this is a C. During the dance hall era in the States, and that was quite a phenomenon. Most of the major cities in the East Coast had dance halls, and the Irish immigrants would flock there. And sometimes there'd be hundreds of people dancing at night. People would see people from their own villages back in Ireland, and that's where a lot of the engagements happened and marriages came about. That era really went from like 1920s to the 1950s. And they would have like bigger bands with that. And the accordions came in really handy because the ones that they were playing for those dances were even bigger than the one that I'm playing. And they could really, without any kind of amplification, they could blast out across the hall. You could actually hear the music from the talking and the dancing. So that's pretty much it.
So, a lot of people ask me, hey, Carol, what are you playing anyway? violin. It does. The difference between a violin and a fiddle. A violin has 4 strings, and a fiddle has 4 strings. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Play something a little slower because the challenge to keep up on the reels. We're gonna play a quick Slipstick set. So.
Yeah.
Travel meaning in our city instead of a library in coffee. So one of the, fabulous things about the competition is that you can do it even without music, because you're making your own percussion as you go. So, we are technically dancing reels here, so we could do this to a reel. But we are going to do it a cappella instead. This is something we sometimes challenge our advanced dancers with, because as you can imagine, having 6 people making percussive rhythm with their feet all at exactly the same time with no conductor can be quite challenging. So this crew is going to show you an acapella several rules. They have to change, some of them have to change back to self-use. So while this year or last year. We're gonna end by demonstrating one of the dances that we do at our Kiwi. The dance is called the Wall of Winter. So Kiwi dances are very traditional dances. They're the kind of dance halls we just heard about. And many of them were recorded in the early 1900s because they were in danger of dying out, again, because they've been repressed for so long. Kind of the last generation that knew them was getting older. And so some very, people who had a lot of foresight wrote them down as that last generation was aging. And that's where a lot of our data come from now. So the Wall of Winter is a very traditional dance. It's probably from that era, at least 100 years old. And this is what we call a progressive dance. So in this dance, you're going to see couples dancing together, and they're going to go through the dance once, and then it's going to repeat, so that each time through the dance, each couple is dancing with a new set of partners. Because again, the goal was to meet people, possibly to future married people. And so we wanted to get to meet as many people as possible. And so the progressive Kiwi dances are designed to do that, to get you dancing with lots of people, meeting lots of people. So you are going to see that in the Wall of Winter and the way that our sets are kind of moving down the hall. We're going to demonstrate this dance with 4 couples because that's the right amount for our space today. But you could easily, I mean, this could go on for 10 to 15 minutes, just even longer. I mean, if you want as long as you want, it never has to end. And if you had 100 couples in the hall, you would do it with that many dancers, you know. So we're going to see a slightly smaller version of that. Whenever you're ready, come on over people who are in the Wall of Winter. Didn't want to rush this weekend. Looks like everybody. Excellent. Okay. Okay, I am going to call this dance, like I would if we were at a community day. We had 9 dancers, but also a bunch of people from the public who've never done our dancing before. And the whole point is that we teach the dancers and then we dance them. So I'm going to call it as we go so that you get a sense for what a real Kiwi is like. right, that was the welcome letter. Thank you, everyone. That was a group that included some of our people who only have 3 or 4 classes, so that brings us to the end of our program. We would like to thank the Burlington Irish Heritage Festival for their support and for hosting this incredible festival year after year, providing through the pandemic. We're so glad we're back in some sense in person this year. And again, we encourage you to check out all of your offerings coming up this month. We also have to thank our incredible musicians. We are so appreciative of your time. And also, thank you for in-person and virtual audiences. We really appreciate your support for traditional Irish music and dance. We can do without you. So please be sure to check out the rest of the festival events this month. You can visit the Garrett School of Irish Dance for more information about our classes. We also have another presentation. We're hosting a performance from Allison's group and Miss Garrett, who's an incredible music percussive dancer, and she's a bottom and group player. That's coming out on March 25th. Right here at Richmond Free Library, you can check that out on our website. And if you'd like to learn any more about the festival, about the Garrett School of Irish Dance, or about learning traditional Irish music in Vermont, feel free to come up and chat with any of us after. We really appreciate it. Thank you all again for coming and have a great rest of the day.